The MTG podcast is a virtual space for women and men in the tech and creative industries.
Tune in as we put it all on the table, sharing authentic life truths as we sustain and empower each other in search of our tribe.
We're more than a designer. We're more than our name badge. We're more than the work we produce.
Welcome to the More Than Graphics podcast.
We're that tribe.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the More Than Graphics podcast. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Cicely.
And together we make up this beautiful bodice, 2/3 of the amazing tribe that is MTG. I am really excited about this episode just because we're talking about this theme of master. We're continuing this conversation in and around master. And I love it because I say it in the Metallica voice because I just love the feeling and the energy that it pumps up every single time. And I kind of want to go into, Cicely, this kind of extended conversation in and around what it means to master something. What does that look like? Because that just takes on a totally different vibe depending on where you are in your journey, where you are in your profession. For those who are new to this space, welcome. We're talking about women in tech. We're talking about women of color. We're talking about creative women. This is what this space is all about. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And yeah, Cicely, you got anything to add in the bonus conversation for master?
That when I think of master, like you were kind of like, you know, what comes to mind, connotations, annotations. When I think of master, I just think of like someone who really knows their craft, someone who has studied, who's well-versed, who can teach other people as well, and just someone who's kind of like at the top of their game in whatever that game may be. So when I think of master, I think of, you know, who do I want to learn from? And then I think of the masters in that profession or the masters of that specific topic.
Yeah, I want to be a master like Oprah. Can we just say that out loud? Like, I just want to be that master. Like, that master.
Absolutely.
That
level.
Right? Like, I want to be that master. Like, can I be that master? There's just so many ways to take this in general, but we do have an amazing guest who already is literally a master in this area. I am so excited about this because we talk about ways that we can empower and encourage each other. And this is one amazing way that we can begin to do this. Areas of education are always important, but when you're teaching people how to learn something, that takes a whole other plateau. So, Cicely, I would love for you to introduce our guest today.
Absolutely. So today's guest is Gabrielle Crichlow. Sorry, I'm looking over here because I'm reading off. While Gabrielle attended grad school at St. John's University, she worked for 2 companies at which she tutored students at no cost to them. While she was working at both companies, she saw the academic struggles of working class families that were disproportionately people of color. She believed that their little allotment of hours was not enough for them. Furthermore, she believed that the children in these families tended to have unknown learning disabilities and were almost illiterate and undereducated. Gabrielle reached a point where she realized that these families deserve more than that. A light bulb went off in her head. I'll start my own company. Gabrielle's experiences at these companies provided her with the insight she needed to excel at and enjoy tutoring while inspiring other tutors to do the same. In 2013, she founded her own company, a Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and has operated it ever since. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. First off, I love the fact that I got to be a guest on your podcast before you got to be a guest on ours because I got to know you a little better. As an interviewee, I get to know you a little bit better. When you ask the questions, when we have those side conversations, when we go off script a little bit, I love it. So I love the fact that this is embedded both in your brand and in your lifestyle and the services and the products that you provide. I just kind of want to know, how did this get started? Like you said, all of a sudden, I just want to start my own company. How did that go?
Yeah, so I started off in college at Temple University, and I was working at a couple of after-school programs as a work study because I received what's called a work study grant. Pretty much, the school gives you money to go work. So of course I had to spend the money. So I found a couple of after-school programs that needed tutors. And I always thought of myself as the bright kid, the smart kid. So I just thought, oh, okay, I could tutor some kids. I could tutor some children. And so I did it, and I got in. When I got into it, I found that it was so much more than that, right? It's getting to know these students on a personal level and listening to their like struggles at home, struggle with friends. So it was so much that goes into it, and seeing how it was all interwoven together. So, excuse me. So just how they did in school and how they felt about themselves and life at home, and how it was all interconnected, and just seeing that when you fix one, I don't want to say fix one, but when you address one issue, the rest just kind of go with it automatically, like dominoes, right? You know, the
Right.
metaphor of dominoes, you knock one down, the others go down with it. So that's what I noticed in working in these after school programs, and seeing how all these things are connected. And if you address one, you address the other. That's something that I carried with me in the years after that, right? So with the two companies that you talked about, as you were reading my bio, I carried it there. Then after that, I went into tutoring privately, and I carried it there. And then I just, and let me think about how to phrase it. I was still doing tutoring privately, like as a side hustle, because those companies actually shut down.
Mhm.
So I was just doing tutoring privately, keeping up with the hustle. And then I just so happened to go to a small business conference at my church. But I was actually there for something completely different, to talk about immigration. And, but listening to the speaker talk about starting a small business and why start a small business, and even if you're an immigrant, how starting a small business can help your immigration status.
Mhm.
Listening to those things and just inspired me, because I always felt myself as independent. I want to create my own thing. I want to use something that I created to generate my own income and not have to work for anybody. And I sort of kind of have authority issues. So it's just like, you know what? I want to just do this thing. And so I just took the leap of faith and I went into it. So I took something that I put multiple years into. I think I'm trying to, I think at this point it's been at the time of maybe like 7 or 8 years
Mm.
of tutoring for other people, tutoring for after school programs, tutoring privately as a side hustle. And then I just thought, how cool would it be to hire somebody, right? And create a brand and have brochures and flyers and little things like that. And now I kind of know you can kind of do some of those things without actually being an official company, but I didn't know that at the time. But all that to say is, I went through the journey that I went through just to start my own brand, and have something that I can hire people under and that I can actually call my own. I think,
Mhm.
I mean, because I could have continued as a side hustler, right? I could have hired other people as vendors. Like, you could still kind of do a lot of those things as an independent contractor. But um, I think, it was just more of putting, calling myself a business owner, um, is what it was for me. So not so much calling myself, not to knock anyone who's doing it as an
Right.
independent contractor, but but to actually call myself a business and call myself a brand, and um and to call myself a powerhouse. I think that's something that I valued more than doing the actual work. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. Is a lot of, yeah, I could be doing the same work as an independent contractor, doing the same things, but it really is, what am I attaching to my name, and how am I presenting myself, and how am I representing myself to other people. And that's something that I put a lot of value in, as well as in the work that I actually do. So it's all in the name.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Okay, so there's a lot of things. Like, Christy and I are just like, we're like taking notes a lot right now. There's a lot of wisdom in what you are saying, and I love the fact that you are very cautiously saying it. Also, I think that says well. I love the fact that you speak about the difference between being just a contractor and then actually having something with your name on it. That is extremely powerful because a lot of us, especially women in tech, women creatives, we kind of get stuck and hung up a lot in the process of things. And we forget a lot of times that my thumbprint's on this, or the opposite. My thumbprint's so on this, I'm hesitant to move forward because of my name, because of the attachment. And I think that's such a cool introspection that I'm seeing in the conversation, just in you sharing your story. I hope that gives a lot of women some confidence, some extra pep in their step, that yes, you can do this. It's possible for you to do this. It's possible for you to be more than the dot, 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 more than an independent contractor, more than just a tutor. You see that there's a system. You see that there is things that influence the other. Love the domino analogy. That was beautiful. I hope that more women are picking up what she's putting down, okay? Because Gabrielle's speaking truth right now. I think it's incredibly important that we can't address one area without addressing other areas, right? Like that was so key for me. That's what I got most out of that. But I'm hoping that as we continue the conversation in and around being a master of something, what that can look like and emulate for other women of color who are looking to do similar things, make similar steps. Cicely, any feedback on the notes thus far? Because I just feel like we were like, okay.
Wow. Absolutely. So I was, obviously you had amazing things to say, and I've had the opportunity to work with children as well. I've always loved kids, like kids, babies, children, always exciting, always fun. But when I had the opportunity to work at an after school program as well, I did it for 2 years after moving back to Kentucky. And just to be able to see exactly what you said about how, like, yes, you're coming to do homework, but really, like, you get to be the counselor, you get to be like the big sister, you get to, maybe become a family friend, like you really get to be like a support for the children. And I think people don't realize that like when you think about after school programs, like it solidified it for me, because at the time my son was too young to be enrolled in that. He was a toddler still, but it solidified for me, and I will always support after school programs because it's a safe haven for kids. It is a place where they can read, it is a place where they can learn, it is a place where maybe if it's not safe for them to be at home, or they're going to be at home by themselves, that they can be among peers, and they can be among adults and people who care about them and will help take some responsibility over them. So I just really want to go back to the point that it's not that, I thought the same thing in my 20s, like when you're fresh out of college, it's just tutoring, like it's not that big of a deal. And then definitely getting a chance to work with the kids through 2 school years, like I saw it completely different. Like I still call them like my babies. Some of those kids are in their late teens, 20s. Some of them have like kids now. Like I worked with like K through 12, so some of them like have kids now, they're married. But it's just really amazing to see that it's not just tutoring, that you're having a positive impact on kids' lives. So I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's wonderful that you explained it in that way, because most people, I feel, will still just think, oh, it's just tutoring, not a big deal. But that led me to wonder, is there a student or a situation that you can remember that solidified your decision to continue to do your business? Like someone where you can say, yes, this boy, or yes, this little girl, like, this is why I'm doing it. Like, it just kind of dawned on you when this situation happened that this is the reason why I'm doing this. Like, this child right here is my why, and why I'm going to continue to go on this path.
Well, there's several students. But I will share one. So there was one student that I remember working with. He was about 8 years old. I mean, I assume he was Indian. I didn't ask, but he was 8 years old, very hyper, not to the point of ADHD, but very hyper. And I remember like helping him with English and reading, and having to use a lot of redirective techniques, like, all right, let's get back into it. Let's get back into this. Let's focus. We're moving away. Let's get back into this. Let's finish this. And giving him a lot of prompts and really encouraging him to finish a task, break the larger task up into smaller ones, and completing each smaller one. So there's a lot of time really getting him to refocus. So I found myself doing that a lot, especially when it came to the reading part. And then it just being hyper. So just standing up a lot and just moving around and, talking to all his siblings. So that I was with him for maybe about a year. And then the mom decided to stop due to some financial issues. So I didn't hear from the family for maybe like 4 or 5 years. And then the mom reaches out to me on Facebook saying, "Hey, I want to thank you for all that you've done for my son. And like now he's in high school and he took a Regents that he didn't even have to take, but he took it anyway. And now he wants to be a lawyer, and now he's going to, this big college." And I'm like, whoa, I did that? Whoa, that just blew my mind. Like now this boy wants to be a lawyer, and he's looking into law school options. And I remember this 8-year-old boy was just, it was difficult for him to focus for long periods of time. Again, not to the point of ADHD, but just in general, just like, oh, I want to touch and play with everything. But it was like, oh, no, we got to finish this. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. But I guess that kind of just stuck with him. Like, okay, I got to get this going, keep going, get this done. And somehow that stuck because now he's in high school and taking extra exams that he didn't have to take, taking them earlier than what's expected for his grade. And all of it, now he wants to go to law school, and even seeing like the pictures of him online, he's all tall now. He was short. So just the fact that the mom took the time to reach out to me and tell me his progress, and now he wants to accomplish all these big things, and it's that solidified it for me, because just knowing that I changed the course of his life just by that 1 year of tutoring, right? Couple sessions a week. It wasn't even that much, but just doing that little bit and and just putting in that commitment was just enough to like show him that he can accomplish these things, and he could get things done, and he can, once he sets his mind to it, he can go for it. And just helping him see that for himself as a young man, especially a young man of color, but helping him see that for himself and achieve those goals and even go for bigger and not settling for the smaller. I think just seeing that was just like, whoa, I did all that? I thought it was just okay. I mean, because I've had some students, every student has their own goal. So it depends on what their goal is. So is the goal, to just pass? Okay. That's fine. So I've worked with students that the goal is just, I just want to get my homework done. Okay. Some students' goals are, I just want to pass the class. I don't really care about anything else. Okay. I've worked with students that are like, I want to get an 80, I want to get a 90. So everyone has a different goal. But I say all that to say, because I guess I have a history of working with students that their goal is just to pass the class and that's it. Which is fine. Everyone has their own goal. But just, so that was kind of the expectation in my head, like, oh, let's just get past this grade and move on to the next grade. But then for the mom to come back like 4 or 5 years later and saying, now he's taking early Regents, and now he's going to this big college, and now he wants to go to law school. It's like, whoa, Like that really just blew my mind. And I think that gave me validity of the work that I'm doing. And so when the parents come back to me now and saying, this is what you did for my daughter, this is what you did for my family, and now my child has achieved something that I never thought they would have achieved. It's like, I did that? Like, that's, whoa. So it really does make me sit back and reflect and just take that all in. Like, I did that. Like, even if the very little bit, a little bit goes a long way, that I like to say. So I just, that, with that boy and all the other kids that I've worked with and my other tutors have worked with, and just seeing that dynamic change and just changing the course of their life. And now it just got me thinking about just how addressing the academic struggles, it trickles into their professional goals and personal goals, and how I was saying before, but everything is interconnected, and now they're taking on big things, and now they can take on challenges, and even just looking like the family dynamic, because the mom was on that little boy, like, calm down, focus, sit down, and now I'm assuming, she's not yelling at him as much anymore,
Right.
right? So I think is seeing that life shift, because you put the confidence in the child that you can do this, just keep at it, just focus. Let's break this up into, you have 20 questions to answer. Okay, let's focus on 3 today, and let's get the 3 done. All right, let's get another 3. We're almost done. Keep going. Don't give up. Keep going, and just putting that in him and seeing that manifest into law school. I think it's big. I don't know if I'm putting it together in the right image right now, but it's just, all you could do is just sit back and just be like, whoa. And I did that. Now this little boy who's just hyper, all of a sudden wants to go to law school. Like, whoa, that's a big shift, and that's a big change. And seeing things like that and hearing all the other stories from parents is just like, okay, I'm doing good work here.
Absolutely. You are definitely doing good work here. I absolutely love these stories. I think it's so encouraging and empowering to hear that we've all, in some way, in some area of our life, especially as women of color, we've all had a person that has stepped in to help us level up in some way. And if you haven't experienced that, it's about to. So I feel like in a lot of ways, this is beautiful to hear, beautiful to acknowledge the help that we receive and how it affects, again, that trickle down effect that we get when we feel like we're being confident in our skill set, and what that can really do in opening doors and opportunities for ourselves and for each other around us. I feel like it was definitely probably a gift, right? It feels like more of a gift to receive that kind of feedback from a parent, even from some of your students. So I'm very much like bubbly about this, because I do believe this is something that is very much a ripple effect. When you receive that type of gift of kind of sacrifice of time and all the hard work that you put into something, that has an immediate and long-term effect, I feel like, in a lot of ways. So kudos to you, like, for real, Gabrielle, for doing like the long end game, putting in the work that doesn't feel like it's very fruitful. I can only imagine sometimes how that can be. But I do relate to that on so many levels as a woman in tech. Like, a lot of times, day to day, it ain't always fruitful. Day to day, sometimes it's not always a feel good place. But the long game, the end game, is always something that we want to return to, those goals, right? What do we want to do? Do we want to pass? Do we want to surpass with flying colors? Do we want to, be the next whatever it is that we dare to be? So that's so encouraging and inspiring to me to hear these stories coming from your expertise as far as tutoring. That's amazing. I need my kid to sign up.
Well, take my information.
Yes, I love that. We'll be sharing it for sure. I love this. So I kind of wanted to follow through into the next question, which is talking more about the mindset. What are some mindset? What's the mindset that you've had to have as to kind of be the master of what you're doing right now? So as a counselor, as a tutorer, what are some steps or mindsets that you've had to have to achieve the goals that you have?
I think definitely persistence. The fact that I've been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. Like there's times I felt like I want to quit.
Mhm.
Um and it- I I still don't know. When I hear stories of like other tutoring entrepreneurs and or other people with other tutoring companies, I'm sitting there like, how are they so big? And like, how did Kumon get to where they are? And just like, there's there's always a financial challenge. So I think being in the tutoring industry, there's always a financial challenge, just that struggle. Well, I think with any entrepreneur really about like how much to charge the client. Um, do I take and it's your I don't know. I have to put the words together, but I think the mindset of being comfortable turning people down, I think is something that I constantly struggle with. Um, but I think it's something that is necessary. So you have the client that might be a little bit too low for you financially. If you're trying to get to a certain place, you have to have a certain hourly rate. Um, and if you run into someone that doesn't meet that hourly rate, then you can't take them, right? Because you have to remember where you're trying to go. Um, so when I hear stories of like tutors are charging like $120 an hour, I'm like, how? you know, I want to get to that level, you know? And it's like, well, you have to turn down the little people. You have to turn down the 25s. So and especially when it's other tutors doing it themselves, maybe they have a small team that they're able, knowing that it's just them, or maybe there's two people under them, they raise their rates. So there's always a conversation about rates. But back to mindset. Um, but just being comfortable turning people down, and you don't have to take every single client. And I think that's was something that I struggled with early on in the beginning of my journey. And in some ways, I do struggle with it, but you don't have to take every single client. And that's a mindset that is tough to live by, but it's necessary. Um, because you're trying to reach certain financial goals for your business and even for yourself. And ultimately, the goal of an entrepreneur, I think, is to work for themselves full time and not work for the man. So to
Exactly.
drop the man and work for yourselves. And the thing with being full time is you need to be able to sustain it financially, and that means charging higher rates. That means taking on higher paying clients. So I think um, accepting that reality of you can't take every single client. If you want to do big things, you got to drop the little things, right? So I think you want big, you got to go big. And I think that's the mindset that you have to have in order to be successful. And that's something that I still constantly struggle with, because it's like, but I want the little guy. And it's like, but I'm trying to go big and I can't go big and I'm dealing with the little guy. So I think it's a constant struggle that that I'm still facing. But if you want big things to happen, you have to find big things to make it happen. So I think that um, that's the mindset that I have right now. So you don't not every client is for you. You don't have to take every single client. That's the mindset that I try to practice. You don't have to take every client. If you want to go big, you have to look for big. That's another mindset. Let's see persistence is another one. You got to keep going. As you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but you got to keep going, so you're going to feel like you want to quit and throw in the towel and maybe take a small break, but get right back up there. So definitely keep going. So trying to recap all that I've said so far. So if you want big, go big. Persistence, don't take every client. And other mindsets.
I mean, these are really good. I mean, I definitely love being comfortable turning people down. I mean, you're definitely saying all the gems right now. These are things that women across all platforms, I feel like, need to hear when they're in these spaces of leadership, accountability, when they're working with teams, like anything along those lines in the realms of tech, and especially creatives. Those are definitely gems. Like learning to say no. I feel like every entrepreneur has to go through their own phase with that one. I think every entrepreneur goes through that.
Yeah, another thing I will add, I said, don't limit yourself. I find that, I hate to go there, but I find that with people of color, we tend to stay with people of color. And I know that's a controversial thing to say, but it is something that I personally have a problem with. In that, yeah, you want to uplift your own people, but you are limiting yourself financially. And I'm trying not to say why people have all the money, but I think it's how do I say this? But expand your scope. That's what I'm trying to say. Like that, I do find that when it comes to minorities and people of color, we tend to want to keep it in the house, keep it in the family, keep it within the, keep it within us, but then by doing that, you're limiting yourself financially. So I think if your goal is to go big, then you need to seek big and step outside of your racial comfort zone and seek clients that may be of different races, of different ethnicities, of different financial backgrounds. So I think, keeping it in-house. Well, it also depends on your goal. So if your goal is, okay, well, I want to uplift my people, go ahead, by all means. But if you're like, well, I'm trying to make money, well, you want to step out of that racial comfort zone. So I think we do limit ourselves. I think we do limit ourselves, people of color, and I think we need to challenge that notion a little bit. So, I think, I know it's, like I said, it's a controversial thing to say, but I think, it's not always good to, I'm just gonna say it, and if you want to edit it out, that's fine. But I'm not too crazy about the buy black mentality. Only because you're focused on the color of the person and not their character. So, and I see it all the time of, well, I want to buy from a black person. I want to buy from a black person. I want to support the black community. And then when they receive poor customer service, they're like, but why? And I'm like, you were so focused on the color of their skin that you didn't bother looking at the character. So
yeah, I totally get that.
But all that to say is, don't limit yourself in terms of race and ethnicity. But you want to go big, you got to find big. And that means you may have to step out of your racial comfort zone and take on different clients of different backgrounds and ethnicities, and taking on going to the affluent neighborhoods, right? And taking on different clients and different things.
I love this. I love this so much. Money doesn't discriminate, right? That's the phrase that comes to mind every single
That's
time.
right. That's
Money doesn't so I love the fact that you say that. And I think that's so powerful to other listeners who are listening to this message in terms of getting outside of our bubble, getting outside of our fishbowl, getting outside the things that are familiar to us. In order to learn, sometimes we have to do the uncomfortable things. And I think that's incredibly valuable as you have shown us, Gabrielle, that we have to get out sometimes in order to leg up, right? In order to level up, we have to get outside of our comfort zone. And I totally agree. In a lot of areas, staying within us only limits us within us. It doesn't include the outside elements that helps level us up to do the things that we need to do. So I really relate to a lot of that. Thank you for saying that. I want to kind of shift gear a little bit because I'm being conservative of time, and I only have Cicely for X amount of time. I kind of want to ask a real quick question on, I think you really kind of answered, right, in this mindset, some of the advice that you would offer our listeners who are attempting to master a skill set or about to begin mastering a skill set.
Ask me that again. I'm sorry.
Sure. No, you're fine. What advice can you offer our listeners who are attempting to master a skill set or about to begin learning a skill set?
I would say a little bit goes a long way, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I'm just about to rattle off a bunch of sayings, but it's something about jack of all trades, but basically it's don't do too many skill sets at once. It's better to pick a few and really drive those home. And when you get those few, okay, then do the next few, right? Then do the next few, but don't let me do all 12 things at one time. No, because you're dividing your energy between each skill set, and you're not giving each thing the right amount of energy that it's supposed to, and therefore you're not getting it. So I would say pick one, maybe two, and really drive those home. And then when you're comfortable, okay, let's move on to the next one and drive that home. Okay, let's do the next one and drive that home. So really, really pace yourself one at a time. Don't do it all at once. And it's better to, on a resume, how recruiters always say, they would prefer someone that stayed at one job for 4 years than had 4 different jobs in 1 year, right? Because what they're looking for is loyalty. They're looking for commitment, right? So it's about loyalty. It's about commitment. It's about being persistent and staying true and sticking it out. And are you here for the long game, right? So it's better to pick 1 or 2 skill sets and really focus in on on those, and then move on to the next couple and drive those home, and then move on to the next couple and drive those home. So the long game, slow and steady, wins the race.
Yes, always. Yes, come through. I love that. Slow and steady. I love this. Okay.
It's really good. I love to hear that from the opposite perspective, because now we're enmeshed in hustle culture. So it's let's get 17,000 skills and 25 certifications and 8 degrees and do all these things in completely different realms and aspects. So I think it's really nice to just sometimes realize we need to come back to just basics, start with 1 thing or 2 things, like you said, master those things. And the saying that you were alluding to was the jack of all trades, master of none. And I think that especially for people like me who were in college in 2006, 2010 originally, a lot of times it was expand your skill set, learn all these things, do all the things. So I know that I dabbled in a whole bunch of things. I was a serial dabbler. And in the last like 4 to 5 years, I've really kind of, I'd say 5, I've really kind of found like what I'm passionate about and what works for me. And I've actually stayed in that same realm for the last 5 years, which prior to that, it had been a couple of different things, 3, 4, 5 things happening at the same time. So I think I really appreciate just hearing sometimes you just need to slow down, figure out where you want to put that energy, because energy, like, yes, it's a continuum, and yes, like we can get more of it, but you want to focus and be able to be really good, to be able to master and be at the top of your game of 1 or 2 things. Then you can move on. So you can master all the things. You can be a jack or a master of all things, just not all at once. Jack of all trade happens at the same time. I was Jack for a long time. So I appreciate you saying that, because it, like I said, in today's culture, especially with people hustling, having 8 jobs and doing too much, like it's definitely something that can get lost. That like, no, let's kind of bring it to basics, work on the skills that, you know, we can really develop and really get great at, and then move on to the next thing. Don't try to do all 17 things at the same time. So I love that you said that. It resonated with me. I love that.
I love this. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I guess to quickly wrap up, we can. I'd love for you to share, Gabrielle, how people can instantly access you and hire you and use you for all the things.
Of course. Well, I would just say the main thing is go to my website. It is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. All the information you need is on the website. I would also encourage your audience to follow me on social media. I'm on multiple platforms, so follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Eventbrite, WhatsApp, and there's another one out there. I can't think of it, but just put in A Step Ahead Tutoring Services for whatever platform, and you'll find me there. I will pop up. Look for the pencil logo with the gray and black tip, and that is me there. I would also encourage your audience to check out my podcast, which Danielle, you were on a couple times. It is called Hot Topics. So, check me out on the podcast platform as well and listen to those episodes. So just put in A Step Ahead Tutoring Services wherever you are, and I will pop up. But the main thing is go to the website, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com.
Perfect. Gabrielle, thank you so much. We're going to have all of that information, all the social medias listed in the show notes and the show description of this exact episode. So be on the lookout for that. Cicely, is there anything else you would like to say in wrap up of Masters? This is our last convo around this topic for a little while. I'm sure it'll pop up some other time, but I love the fact that we were able to at least talk with you, Gabrielle, about learning new skill sets, about your personal resilience and how you are definitely continuing to strive to push forward for advocating for kids who want to learn and advocating even for the ones that don't, and showing them that it's possible for them to learn something new.
Heavy on the ones that don't too. And that it's parents, but that's okay. And like I think you had just so many good gems, so many good things to say. Like when you saw like my head, like, you know, constantly moving back and forth, I was typing notes, just so many good things that you said about mindset that I think is super important. I know, just kind of circling back to, as a person of color who also is in the same business to help people and like providing a service. I don't know what that noise was. That was a weird noise. But also helping to provide a service. I think it's easy to get caught up in like, well, I want to help people. It's like, but yes, I have to make money. I have to live as well. So that's definitely something I see more often with people of color, women of color especially. Like we get caught up in wanting to help and wanting to nurture, which is all wonderful. And obviously that's where your passion and your love for what you do comes from. But we also have to remember that you can still share that same passion with your people, with your community, but then also just know that, like, you know, don't limit yourself. Like you said, like we can also expand and still be great. Like Oprah is the quintessential example of still staying true to herself, but also expanding. She was an actress in The Color Purple, but then she also, you know, was handing out new cars and had Gwyneth Paltrow and some of the A-list celebrities on her show. So to me, it just shows that you can do things for your community. You can do things that stay true to yourself, especially as a Black woman of color, but that you can also expand those horizons and make sure that, you know, you become like that you don't limit yourself and you expand beyond what you may even have believed was possible. So I love that you said that. And I'm in full support of branching out, still staying in the community, you know, to help, but branching out in order to like share your message and to reach more people. So that hit home.
Yay. Okay. Okay.
Yay,
So
thank you. No, so thank you for what you said.
yay. Okay. So we can transition two ways. So now, Cicely, you got 3 minutes left. I can take over the flash questionnaire so that you can scoot if you need to, or if you want to do the flash questionnaire, you can. It's completely up to you.
I'll let you take it over and I'll mute and then I'll scoot out when it's time.
Okay.
But thank you so much, Gabrielle, for your time and your insight and your wisdom. And like I said, you've taught me a thing or two today, so I appreciate it. And it was a great conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Likewise.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to move straight into our flash questionnaire. Gabrielle, this is where we would give you a random question and you give us whatever pops into your beautiful brain. We realize that this is a no seatbelt conversation. You can say whatever, however you like it. All right, are you ready?
Let's go for it. I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, something new you've learned in the past year, whether life lesson, hobby, or fun fact.
Something, I have to think about it. Something new that I've learned in the past year. Well, definitely not hobbies. I have no life. Fun facts. Hobby fun fact. What was the other one? Life lesson.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can we come back to that one? I know it's not a fact, but I can't think of it.
Girl, it could be like a new pair of shoes. It could be whatever new came recently into your life over the past year. Okay.
I have to think about that one a little bit.
Okay, no worries. We can move to the next one. Favorite vacation, getaway, or spot?
I don't really vacation, but if I had to pick, hmm. I don't really vacation. Huh.
Do you have like a spot that you like to go to when you're not at home?
You mean assuming that I leave New York City? I would say
block. I was thinking like the block. I was thinking the block. Like,
well, but you're saying like vacation, like I mean,
or
things.
Getaway spot. I can think of like a day. If you went out for a day, like what would your day space be like if you were hanging out somewhere? Day trip.
I mean, I will say I like to. I do try to leave Brooklyn once in a while. I would say upstate New York.
Okay.
Like New Rochelle area, Schenectady, like the upper, like outside of the city in the suburbs.
Like walls, like up there.
Right. Like, because it's quieter and it's a town and it's just like you see the different signs and like everyone's all friendly and it's just like, oh, this is different from the city. So
right, it's a little
like really like outside of New York City into suburbia, especially New York suburbia, I think that's a nice spot I like to go.
Okay, cool. All right, so sweet snacks or savory snacks?
Trail mix.
I was waiting.
Trail mix with the chocolate and the raisins. A friend of mine put me onto it like 6 years ago and I got hooked. I was like, oh, this is nice. So it's like nuts with chocolate pieces and raisins. There's like a brand I really like. It's like the store brands. I think it's called Nice, NICE. That one I really like. Yeah. So definitely trail mix.
I love it. Okay, so big questions: Harry Potter or Star Wars?
Harry Potter. I'm not into Star Wars. I'm sorry. It's just I'm not into Star Wars. Harry Potter all the way.
All right. Okay. What house? You know what house you are? I'm
Well,
house
I'm the
Raven.
smart. I'm the not Hufflepuff.
Oh,
Well,
so are you
Slytherin's the
Raven?
bad one. Slytherin is like the naughty one. I guess Gryffindor because I was always the smart one.
All right.
So I'm smart and brave. So I would put myself in Gryffindor.
I love it. Okay, we're House Ravenclaw over here, so I totally we can be friends.
Okay, like we can be friends.
Okay, digital books or physical books? I think I know your answer on that one.
I would say digital books because it depends on the book. Um, I think I may have a suspected like learning disability, so I think I would say digital books. Um, because it's easier to break things apart and look at things one piece at a time. So I would say digital books.
Oh wow, that was totally opposite of what I thought it might be. That's so great though. I'm a digital person. We don't get very digital book people unless it's audiobooks, of course. And then it's like, yeah, I'll do that. But like, I'm definitely more of a digital book person as well. Like, it's easier for me to again break down information, hunk and chunk in my head sometimes more than a physical book. I love the smell of a good old fresh book. I just love
I love the smell. Yeah, definitely the feel of the paper and
that.
yeah, but when it's just like I cannot I have struggles with focusing for a long period of time and taking in a lot of information.
Right,
So
right.
I think it's just let's digital.
I
That
agree.
might be suspective of my learning disability, but I think like digital for sure.
I'm right with you. We can do it together. If you could go back in time, where would you go and whom would you see?
Hmm. That's a funny question because you ask a black person that, do you really
I
think they would
know.
go back into Civil War time? Like, would you really go back into slavery time? And it's just like that's a weird question to ask a black person. Um,
I
because
do.
most of history was like discrimination against people of color. So, let me go back into World War II. Okay, well, World War II, black people were likely to be discriminated, shot, shackled up. So, that's a weird question.
That's
That
a
is
really
a very heavy question to ask a black person. But
I
um, but I guess let's see if I could go back in time. Who would I see? I don't know. How to think about that.
I've had some really interesting answers. We had say way back when we had someone said they wanted to be in the era of Harriet Tubman, like they wanted to know what it was like to be like travel amongst her and know the path and all the things. And I'm like, okay, cool. We've had people say they want to go back to Harlem Renaissance era where it was the heightened of so much creativity that was happening in and around those spaces. And then we have others that have simply said, I just wanted to be with a loved one, a family member, grandma, something along those lines, just to get to know them in their prime.
I mean, is it cheesy to say I would love to go back to the 90s?
Let's go. Absolutely. Let's
Because that's the era that I know. And it's like Spice Girls stickers and Tamagotchis and
go.
Skip It and Hopscotch and all this new age stuff.
Lisa
So
Frankfurter and
I would go back to the 90s. Who would I speak to in the 90s? I don't know anyone in particular, um but definitely like I would love to go back to the 90s and re-experience that.
oh, I love it. I love it. I miss the jelly flip flops and the
Oh,
tie
I
dye
love the
shirts,
jellies.
all the things. I'm a 90s kid. This is right up my alley. I'm like, ooh, she's speaking my love language. That's it right there. It's the 90s. I love it. Okay.
I would love to meet the Spice Girls. There it is. I will say it. I want to go back to the 90s and I want to meet the Spice Girls. Spice Girls, Backstreet Boys, or NSYNC.
Oh, come on. Yes, all the things. Near and dear to Backstreet Boys. That's where we from. That's my okay, so your love language.
I guess I need more context. What do you
Okay.
mean by that?
So there's like the 5 different types of love language. It could be let's see, charity or giving. It could be acts of service. It could be physical gifts. It could be physical touch. Anything along those lines. So not necessarily wrapping around all the Christian values that come from that. It was more so of a what's your love language? What would be the best way to describe how to get you, how to reach you?
Hmm. I guess not. I think if I have to think about it, I would say service. So
Okay.
what do you do for other people?
Yes.
You know, how do you give up your like feeding the homeless, those are good things, but I find that that's a very common thing that people want to do in terms of service.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's very common that people want to feed the poor and it's very common. But I would just say, like, what do you do for people in your own neighborhood, in your own backyard? What do you do for your best friend's kid? What do you do for your own church members? Like, because I find that people go outside of their communities to do some kind of service, and it's like, what are you doing for the people at home? So we have people that want to, like, save the children in Africa. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's like, okay, but you have children here at home who are also suffering. So what are you doing for them? So I would say it's service. What are you doing for the person next to you?
Oh, I love that. Acts of service. I'm words of affirmation. That's definitely one for me. I love it when someone tells me something personal. I'm like, that's just so nice. Don't cry. My husband all the time is very much on that level. If he hears something that's really emotionally striking to him, he immediately responds very emotionally. So his love language is words of affirmation. And roughly so are mine. Last question is the best part of being a grown up.
No one can tell me what to do.
Hey,
I have authority issues.
I love this. Hey, good trouble. Good trouble. Some of the best trouble.
Yes.
I love that. I love the fact that you were able to join us here today, Gabrielle. Thank you so much for all the gems and all the wisdom that you shared today.
But should we go back to that first question?
Oh, sure. Absolutely, I can.
Okay, ask me that again. Let me see if I got it.
Going back to the first question, something new you've learned in the past year.
Maybe how to edit videos. I sort of knew how to do that on a basic level, but I recently started reaching out to public access stations. So so I'll say that. So I learned how to take my podcast and formulate it in a way that is sufficient for TV.
Hey.
Right. So I learned about, like, frame rate, and there's this program called Handbrake that I had to download. So I learned about public access TV. So I learned that. I learned how to create a show for public access TV.
Look at you. Hey, we can be taught, y'all. Like, for real. We got to do what we got to do. I love that. Again, Gabrielle, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for the gems that you dropped. We really appreciate all the wisdom that you're sharing with each of us in this space. And I hope that anyone who's listening or watching range of this video or the audio, that you're finding something that is definitely encouraging you and inspiring you to keep moving on, to encourage you, to inspire you to keep leveling up, and for you to be more than whatever your ... is. So, Gabrielle, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Sisters, we got to come together. Woo, woo, woo.
That's right. That's right. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to the More Than Graphics podcast. We invite you to subscribe and follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Chat with us on how our life stories and virtual safe spaces are helping educate, empower, or encourage you. Visit our website at mtgthepodcast.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive behind-the-scenes moments like Clubhouse or LinkedIn Live, happening once a month at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So until next time, everybody, thanks for watching.
And just like that, the episode ends, but the convo has just begun.
Thanks for listening to the MTG podcast.
We want to hear from you. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it a review on your listening app of choice.
Continue to follow us across MTG socials.
And look out for bonus content releases throughout the year. This podcast is produced by Octane Design Studios.
Until next